Before beginning, like this kind of content, make sure you're subbed to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell for daily notifications. And if you want to go further, you want to help out the channel, and you want to support something out there that's a good product and sends a message, well, check out the links in the description. One of those is the case of the Littlest umbrella. We are 5 backers away from 2K, and we're $335 away from a milestone that'll make a lot of people rather crazy. But more on that at the end of the video. So today I want to return to something we've been talking about, and this is one heck of a blockbuster filing. Now, I've broken down several parts into other videos because, number one, there was a timeline that basically told us everything that had transpired, how Vic Mignogna was looking at a specific case, and well, we got Vic Mignogna's affidavit with that. We also had other affidavits, and this is one of those. Now, I think that this is important because it showcases how much reliance there is on people that either bend the truth or they lie flat out. I mean, when we're looking at this is a rebuttal to something that I'm going to show you. Now, this you may not remember from before. If not, that's okay. We're talking about an affidavit here, and this affidavit, well, you can see who this person is. They're the CEO of a convention out there. In fact, multiple conventions. They've been someone that Stan Dolan has actually called out, and this person, I mean, well, let's just say they have a history of not telling the truth. We talked about that in other videos too. This person, they lie. They lie, and well, they get called out for it in this newest thing. So when we're looking at this, to understand what this document is, again, we have to go to this, and we have to look at what's mentioned in here. Now, this part, I think it's such a telling thing, too. We see a certain name that, again, you're going to recognize here. My name is, so you're going to have that name there. And you see who he brings up and how he brings it up. He's going to bring up Vic Mignogna, says that she would fly with Mignogna and accompany him to other conventions, as well as the Star Trek Continues set. The volunteer was a die-hard fan and admirer of Mignogna, and I witnessed her defend him anytime someone complained about him being a diva or too demanding. However, one day, she came up to me and said that while she loved Anime Weekend Atlanta, or AWA, you'll see that mentioned a lot, and wanted to keep volunteering in guest relations, she requested not to be assigned to Mignogna or work with him directly anymore. She stated that, quote, he was not who I thought he was, and when I pushed for more details as to why she felt that way, she was hesitant and uncomfortable to say anything. I believe that she was too scared to say anything further, so I dropped the matter. I learned from someone else last year that Mignogna had forcibly kissed her without her consent, and I believe this is why she did not want to work with him. While I was frustrated she did not tell me this sooner, I understood why she was hesitant to tell me, because she knew I would not allow to invite him back to AWA ever again. Now, what's interesting about that is it looks bad. You know, when you put all of this stuff together, I mean, it does. It looks bad. Of course, when you're talking about the person that puts it out there, they have to be believable, which they aren't. They have a history of not being believable. But moreover, when you look at this and then you look at other claims in it, what happens when somebody drills a hole right in one of these and says, yeah, that's not true? So enter Erika here, who has talked about this on Twitter, but when she talks about it here, oh yeah. So she says, my name is, I've read the affidavit executed by, you notice that affidavit was by this person, the date there, attached to this unsworn declaration, and am familiar with its content. I have never been a personal handler or assistant for Vic Mignogna or Vic. Any time I served as his handler, it was at a convention and as a representative of that convention. As such, the only person I was answerable to was the person in charge of guest relations and said convention. convention. Now, that first part is important because, again, she is not answerable to Vic Mignogna. I think that's an important detail there because, again, the way that this was laid out, it makes it sound like she actually might quit because, well, Vic Mignogna was a. Also, again, the other details too about how committed she was to him. No, she actually did not serve in that capacity. She was serving at the bequest of a convention. So, number 4 here. I have never been on the same airplane as Vic. So that part about being on airplanes, flying back and forth, that's a straight up lie. A big one, in fact, when you think about it. I have never been flown to any convention where I was Vic's handler. 3 conventions have ever flown me to their venues. 2 of those conventions were ones owned and operated by the guy who made that, and at those conventions, I was not Vic's handler. I was not Vic's handler at the 3rd convention I was flown to, Colossal Con. So again, poking holes in the details of this. Why is that important? Because again, the lies, whether they're huge, whether they're small, they all come together and they set a table that makes you say, yeah, do I want to believe this? How many of these should I have before? So number 5 here. I've never been a, quote, die-hard fan and admirer of Vic Mignogna. My prolific work with Vic was due solely to the fact that I had a strong understanding of the venues in which I volunteered and or in my understanding of Vic's idiosyncrasies as they relate to conventions. So here, I had an understanding of the guest, I had an understanding of the convention, therefore I was placed with the guy. That doesn't make me super fan. All right, continuing. My involvement on the Star Trek Continues series was limited to 1 episode, and I joined that production because I loved Star Trek and believed I would be acting as organizer and liaison for cast and crew transportation. Again, talking about Star Trek Continues, we're talking about a thing that was put together as a labor of love. Vic talked about that. Other actors talked about it. This person talked about it. But of course, they get spun into a die-hard fan of Vic Mignogna. That's been one of the lies that you see over and over again, too. Oh, you like due process? You think somebody shouldn't be burned down in the public eye? Well, it must be because you're a fanboy. Continuing here. I have no memory of making any requests not to be assigned to Mignogna or work with him directly anymore. It would be out of character for me to communicate directly with that person about anything at a staff meeting. I made this statement to the Director of Guest Relations, who was in charge of the American and Japanese guest handlers at AWA and several of that person's other conventions. The reason I made this request is that I was tired of being pigeonholed into handling Vic at conventions. I had also volunteered on an episode of Star Trek Continues and was scheduled to work with him at another convention, and I just wanted a change and an opportunity to work with other guests. Wow. Actually not wanting to be pigeonholed into one role when it comes to conventions. Imagine that. Again, though, when you bring that up in this specific environment now, apparently that means that you were abused somehow. Isn't that interesting how that got spun? And especially when you consider the fact that this person, they worked at conventions. They had done something for the convention to make them money. And well, how are they repaid? You saw how they were repaid. They were actually gone in and pigeonholed again as another role. Victim. Isn't that interesting? 7. I have no memory of saying to that person that Vic was not who I thought he was. I would not have made a statement like that to them. So again, didn't fly on airplanes, didn't make statements. I'm not actually a die-hard fan. Interesting how that works out. Number 8, I've never been, in my life, been afraid of Vic Mignogna. That reflects back to number 6 here. I'm going to be working with him on an episode later on, and I'm going to be working with him at another convention. But, I'm terrified of the guy. kind of doesn't fit, does it? Interesting how that works out, too. And number 9, a big one here, Vic never, quote-unquote, forcibly kissed me without my consent. Wait a minute, you mean all of those things we were told about how you were afraid, how Vic forced himself on you, all of that was a lie? You mean that the person out there that put that together, they lied about not only your mindset, but your statements and even your involvement within a convention? Color me, well, not surprised in the least. I'll ask you, though, how many of these do you need before you start saying there's a problem going on? And that problem, it's not just misinformation. I mean, it's flagrant falsity and lies. We'll be talking soon about what Chuck Huber said, for example, in an affidavit, and that thing is a bombshell. When you talk about accusations of a casting couch, you talk about how a CEO at Funimation would not listen because Chris Sabat was doing specific things, because, hey, that guy knew him for 17 years and more. And more, you have to wonder what exactly transpired. When you hear people saying that 2 voice actors are representing themselves as advocates for underage girls, those people are going to materialize, you have to question what's happening. I mean, especially when those people don't exist. But anyway, you tell me what you think about this. And when it comes to that certain point where you say, yeah, there's enough of these in there, they tried to pile them on, and we've named at least half a dozen of them that they can be disproven easily, or, they are just flagrant falsities. Anyhow, like I say, you tell me what you think. So again, like this channel, like these videos we put up, make sure that you're subbed to it. Hit that bell for daily notifications, and if you'd like videos, make comments, it definitely helps those out. Also, if you want to go further, we have put together a comic book to make sure that we can defy gatekeepers. We want to do a good product. I want to work with talented people, but also those folks out there that say you can't do it. Oh yeah, you can. We're 5 backers away from a big milestone there. You can see it in front of you. And also $335 away from 6 figures. That, people are going to go absolutely insane when it's there. It's going to be absolutely delicious. There's a few things in here too. Remember, there are 2 comic books associated at a specific tier if you haven't checked that out. All Ages Lovecraftian Tale for 1, plus an add-on when we hit to 100K, which we're already working on anyway. And there's a thing talking about what's transpired in comic books, making a little bit of fun of that. We also, if you've backed before and you wanted something different, because people asked about that, we have 2 print editions here, and they'll be limited at 150. When all of that's gone, it's gone. So anyhow, check that out if you want to. Let me know what you think about this stuff too. I mean, when I see this, I'm not surprised by it anymore, but I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because we have people that have divided fandom, people that represent conventions, people that represent companies, or companies themselves that have come out and said, you're not the type of consumer we want. So, going off of that too, I want to thank you for popping up here, checking out videos, and, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your support. I want to end with that too, saying thank you while these people forget you and your part in endeavors. Yeah, hold them responsible for that. You can go out and you can take the one thing they need, the lifeblood, away. You can take the money and you can walk it somewhere else. But anyway, thank you. I appreciate you. We'll do this stuff again soon.